Hi friends, today we're going to be looking at stem changing verbs in Spanish. For example, sleep in Spanish is dormir, but when we conjugate it, when we use it in the present tense, in the first person singular, for example, and we say I sleep, we'll have to say yo duermo. We are not saying dormo, we are saying duermo. The O in dormir, in the infinitive, is becoming UE. There's lots of verbs in Spanish that have this stem change, and there is a pattern. So if we learn that pattern, we'll be able to conjugate many verbs that do this when we conjugate them in the present tense. So let's do it. So how does it work? It says here, in the present tense, some verbs have a stem change. A letter in its root changes in some grammatical persons. There are two types of stem changes. E that becomes IE, and here we have pensar as the model. We'll take a look at it in a second. And the other type is O changing to becoming UE. Dormir, the example that I gave you earlier, is one of these. So let's take a look at pensar, which is our model for E to IE. So if this was strictly regular, we would say yo penso for the first person, but instead of that, the E is becoming IE, and we are saying yo pienso. The same thing happens in the second person singular. Instead of tú pensas, we say tú piensas. The E becomes IE. And same thing for the third person singular. Él, ella, usted piensa. However, with nosotros and vosotros, it keeps the original E. This happens basically because the syllable is no longer stressed. That's why. So instead of piensamos, which that's what it would be if we did the stem change, we say nosotros pensamos. We are conjugating it as a strictly regular verb. For vosotros, if you use vosotros, it's vosotros pensáis. Same thing, the E stays. And then for they, for the third person plural, we have the stem change again. Ellos, ellas, ustedes piensan. So I'm going to say all of them without the personal pronoun. So that would be pienso, piensas, piensa, pensamos, pensáis, piensan. And it says this happens in many verbs. It doesn't matter if they are AR, ER, or IR. Note that the E changes to IE in every person except nosotros and vosotros. So here are some common E to IE verbs. Cerrar, to close. Divertirse, to have fun. And it's also a reflexive verb. We'll conjugate it in a second. Empezar, to start or to begin. And there's an asterisk here. We'll read the note in a second. Entender, to understand. Mentir, to lie. Pensar, to think, is the one we saw. Perder, to lose. Preferir, to prefer. Querer, to want, and also to love. In Spain, we tend to use this verb a lot instead of amar. Recomendar, to recommend. Sentarse, to sit down, and sentirse, to feel. We'll have to be careful with these two because they are quite similar. They are both reflexive, but this one is an AR verb with a stem change, and this one is an IR verb with a stem change. So let's conjugate some of them. But before that, let's read this note. So it says, the stem change always happens in the strong syllable. With empezar, for example, it has two E's. It's this E that is going to change. When we say I start, we'll say yo empiezo. Same thing for entender. This is the E that's gonna change. Yo entiendo. And same thing for preferir. It's the second E. Yo prefiero. Okay, so let's conjugate a few of them. Let's try cerrar, to close. I'm gonna do it with the personal pronouns. So cerrar, yo cierro, tú cierras, él, ella, usted cierra. Nosotros, nosotras cerramos, no stem change in this person. Vosotros, vosotras cerráis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes cierran. Let's try divertirse, which is a reflexive verb ending in IR. So we need the IR endings for the present tense. So yo me divierto. Tú te diviertes. Él, ella, usted se divierte. Nosotros, nosotras nos divertimos, no stem change. Vosotros, vosotras os divertís, no stem change again. Ellos, ellas, ustedes se divierten with the stem change. Let's try empezar, and again, this is the E that's going to change. So I start, empiezo. You start, empiezas. I'm going to say the whole thing without the personal pronouns. So empiezo, empiezas, empieza, empezamos, empezáis, empiezan. Let's try mentir, to lie. Miento, mientes, miente, mentimos, mentís, mienten. Let's try preferir, to prefer. Prefiero, prefieres, prefiere, preferimos, preferís, prefieren. Let's try querer. Quiero, quieres, quiere, queremos, queréis, quieren. And let's try these two, the two reflexive verbs. The only difference is this one is an AR verb and this one is an IR verb. So the first person is going to be the same for both. Me siento. We have to know which one we are using the context. So sentarse, to sit down. Me siento. Te sientas. Se sienta. Nos sentamos. Os sentáis. Se sientan. And sentirse, same thing, but with the IR present tense endings. Me siento. Te sientes. Se siente. Nos sentimos. Os sentís. Se sienten. Let's take a look at the other stem change. O becoming UE. So here we have soñar, to dream, in the present tense as our example. So instead of soño, the O becomes UE, and we say sueño. So yo sueño, tú sueñas, él, ella, usted sueña. Nosotros, nosotras soñamos, no stem change in nosotros. Vosotros, vosotras soñáis, no stem change. Ellos, ellas, ustedes sueñan. Again, the O changes to UE in every person except nosotros and vosotros. And here are some common O to UE verbs. We have acostarse, to go to bed or to lie down. We have almorzar, to have lunch, contar, to tell and also to count. Costar, to cost. Devolver, to return something. Dormir, to sleep. Dormirse, to fall asleep. The reflexive version of dormir has a different meaning. One of them is to sleep, the other one is the act of falling asleep. Encontrar, to find. Mover, to move an item. To move places is a different verb. It's mudarse, which is a reflexive verb. Morir, to die. Poder, to be able to or can. Recordar, to remember. Sonar, to sound. Soñar, with ñ, to dream. Volar, to fly. And volver, to return. So let's conjugate a few of them. Let's try acostarse. I'm going to conjugate it using the personal pronouns. Yo me acuesto. Tú te acuestas. Él, ella, usted se acuesta. Nosotros, nosotras nos acostamos, no stem change. Vosotros, vosotras os acostáis. Ellos, ellas, ustedes se acuestan. Let's try devolver, to return something. Devuelvo, devuelves, devuelve, devolvemos, devolvéis, devuelven. Let's try dormir, to sleep. Duermo, duermes, duerme. Dormimos, dormís, duermen. Let's try dormirse, to fall asleep, the reflexive version of dormir. Me duermo, te duermes, se duerme. Nos dormimos, os dormís, se duermen. Let's try encontrar, to find. Encuentro, encuentras, encuentra. Encontramos, encontráis, encuentran. Let's try poder. Puedo, puedes, puede. Podemos, podéis, pueden. And let's try one more. Let's do volver, to return. vuelvo, vuelves, vuelve, volvemos, volvéis, vuelven. Okay, so stem changing verbs in general, they don't change in the past tense, in the preterite. So here is pensar in the preterite, pensé, pensaste, pensó, pensamos, pensasteis, pensaron. There is no stem change. And here is soñar, again, 100% regular. Soñé, soñaste, soñó, soñamos, soñasteis, soñaron. These verbs here, divertirse, mentir, morir, preferir, querer, sentirse, dormir, and poder, are irregular in the preterito perfecto tense. So these ones, you can look them up and memorize their conjugation. Okay, so let's complete this exercise together. So all these are in the present tense. So first one, using pensar, yo pienso que tú eres muy guapo. Tú piensas mucho. Nosotros, with querer, queremos ir al US Open. No stem change for nosotros. Ustedes nunca mienten. María siempre pierde sus llaves en el parque. Juan empieza a trabajar a las 9 de la mañana cada día. Yo nunca miento a mi amiga. Mi perro siempre sueña que él está en el parque. Mi amigo Pedro siempre se acuesta a las 4 de la mañana. And these ones in pretérito perfecto, there is no stem change in pretérito perfecto. So, el martes yo devolví unos pantalones en la tienda. Estás muy cansado porque ayer tú te acostaste muy tarde. Ayer ella no cerró la puerta de su casa. Yo volví el jueves. El 15 de mayo de 2013, nosotros perdimos nuestra bufanda favorita. And let's conjugate these verbs in the present tense. Dormir, duermo, duermes, duerme, dormimos, dormís, duermen. Perder, pierdo, pierdes, pierde, perdemos, perdéis, pierden. Encontrar, encuentro, encuentras, encuentra, encontramos, encontráis, encuentran. Sentarse, to sit down. Me siento, te sientas, se sienta. Nos sentamos, os sentáis, se sientan. Volar, to fly. Vuelo, vuelas, vuela. Volamos, voláis, vuelan.